Hello and welcome back to Football Index Moneyball. I have another pick of the day for you today, and for this video I'll be taking my first look at a bargain player who I would usually avoid due to the impact the video could have on the price. This player is someone who I've been tracking for several years now, and is someone who I highlighted to my patrons back in January for the possibility of the latter stages of European comps and transfer speculation. Since then he's actually risen about 30%, but I think following the departure of a key teammate, he's now in a position to impose himself, and this could lead to interest from a PB League team at some point in the future. Before we get going, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. If you want to follow me on Twitter, then you can search for @IndexMoneyball, and there's referral links in the description if you want to sign up for Football Index, Football Index Edge or Football Index Club. There's also a link to my Patreon where you can help to support the channel, which gives access to some bonus picks, portfolio reviews and other added benefits. So the player I've gone for today is Lucianno Vietto, a 26-year-old forward currently playing at Sporting Lisbon. The interesting thing about this player is his transfer record. At just 26, Lisbon is actually his 6th club in the last 6 years and 8th club overall. After signing for Villarreal in August of 2014, he managed 20 goals and 8 assists in 48 appearances in his first season in Spain and was snapped up by Atletico Madrid a year later. He then struggled for opportunities in his first season in Madrid, making just 12 appearances, and since then he was loaned out to Sevilla, followed by 6 months back at Atletico, then another 2 loan spells at Valencia and Fulham, before finally signing for Lisbon last summer for just under £7 million. So to say he's had an unsettled career would be a bit of an understatement. Throughout this time, he also struggled for opportunities everywhere he landed, with a total of 53 starts in his 4 years in Europe, an average of just over 13 a year. Considering 3 of the 4 clubs he played at had European football, this was a pretty bad return for him. But this season, he seems to have found his feet at Lisbon, and in particular since the departure of Bruno Fernandes in January, as he's taken over set pieces and become more of a focal point for play in a slightly deeper role than he's played for most of his career. Taking a look at his 1-year graph, we can see that it's remained largely stagnant up until January, which has backed up the point that he seems to have risen to the challenge of filling the void left by Bruno. His price peaked at 39p in late February, when he came very close to clinching a PB win during a Europa League game versus Istanbul, scoring a 2-7-3 with just 1 non-game winning goal. Since then, Sporting have unfortunately been knocked out of the Europa League, but I think this gives a good indication of the PB potential for Vietto in his new role, and leaves us with an opportunity to get in at a pretty reasonable price. The hope would be that Sporting will make the European comps next season, giving Vietto further opportunities to impress, or that a PB team take notice and snap him up. To be honest, I think this is more likely to happen next summer if he manages to keep up his good form next season, but at 26 there's still plenty of time for him, and the potential return if a move came off or if he managed a PB win in the Europa League next season would be well worth the wait. Taking a look at Vietto's transfer market, he just has the one trophy, which was for the top scorer award in the 2014-15 season in Europa League, his first season with Villarreal. Over his career he's managed 261 appearances with 65 goals and 34 assists, which equates to a combined 0.55 per 90, with a roughly 2-to-1 skew towards goals, which is a good thing for PB. His positional stats are pretty interesting, as he's played the vast majority of his games as a striker, but you can see he has a few appearances in each of the front 5 positions, so it would be fair to say that he's a pretty versatile player. But when you look here at his stats from this season, arguably his best since his first in Europe, he's played mostly from a deeper position, with only 8 of his 31 appearances as a centre forward. So this change of role is going to be bringing him into play more, which in combination with the fact that he's now taking set pieces should give him more chance of posting high PB scores in next year's eligible games. On this table, I've compiled all the data I could get for Vietto's last 4 seasons, and although he's struggled for opportunities, his stats are actually pretty good. His goals and assists per game have stayed consistent for his career at 0.5 per 90, and his key stats are all over my threshold of 1 per game, with 1.4 key passes, 1 shot on target and 1.2 successful dribbles per 90. On top of this, he has an average of 1 successful tackle per game and 34 passes, which for a forward is not too bad. And when you limit the stats to just this season, almost all of these numbers improve, which again is a positive looking towards next season. For the profit target analysis, I've gone for the comparable purchase option method. There were quite a few options for this one, so all the players I've used are 26-year-old forwards and are either ineligible or unlikely to represent their countries at the Euros next summer. The first player I went for is Maximilian Philipp at Dynamo Moscow. Philipp is also a recent arrival, moving over the summer from Dortmund last year. He's had a decent start to life in Russia, but with Dynamo down in 6th place, the chances of him seeing any PB eligible football anytime soon are slim. He does have, however, a pretty impressive combined goal and assist record of 0.7 per 90, which is quite a bit better than Vietto's. But I think that if they both ended up back in PB leagues, Vietto would still be the better PB option due to his overall play and set piece ability. The second option I went for is Ivan Cavallero at Fulham. Cavallero's had a pretty good season after joining from Wolves on a loan deal that has been made permanent in January. Fulham look as though they are going to make the playoffs but miss out on automatic promotion, so there's a chance that Cavallero ends up with PB football next season. But with the season in the state that it is and the strength of the competition in the playoff places, nothing's guaranteed. He also has a slightly worse goal and assist record than Vietto at 0.5 per 90. To be fair, this is one of the situations where I quite like all three of these purchase options, but the main factor which pushed me towards Vietto is that if all things remained as they are and the three players stayed in their respective teams and leagues, Vietto's the only player who's going to see any PB eligible football next season. And as he showed in his recent Europa League peak score, he could be in with a real shout of getting some dividends, which would be a huge return on investment on its own without even counting for the likely rise that would come with it. For my low target, I went for Jonathan Cagliari, another Argentinian playing on loan at Espanyol from Uruguayan team Maldonado. He's had a decent start to the season so far with 5 goals and 3 assists in 26 games, but with Espanyol bottom of the league, it's unlikely that he's going to find himself with any PB eligible football next season, even if his moves got made permanent. There is a chance that he could get a move to another PB team if they do get relegated, but I think all things considered, Vietto looks the better option, even at this price. For my mid-target, I went for Helder Costa at Leeds on loan from Wolves. Leeds are currently sitting at the top of the Championship table, and Costa's played a pretty big part, featuring in every league game for them so far this season. But there's no guarantee that his loans are going to be made permanent, and looking at Wolves, I'm not sure that he would get into the team there. So this is a bit of a risky one, and this could be suppressing his price. If Vietto were to make a move to a PB team in the next 2 seasons, then I think this target should be easily achievable for him. For my high target, I went for John Cordoba at Colm. Cordoba's had a good season so far after a slow start, but this is a good example of the kind of price I think Vietto could get to if he was to make a move to a PB league, if he put in some consistently high scores in the Europa League and took down a PB win, or if rumours start of a move to a PB team who are likely to feature in Europe next year. This leaves us with a profit target range of 24% for the low, 91% for the mid, and 124% for the high. Looking at these figures, I'm very optimistic about the potential for a profit on Vietto. I always like to see a mid target that's pushing the 100% target mark, and considering I've been pretty conservative with my targets and we're still seeing this, I think there's a great low risk, high reward opportunity here. So that's all I've got time for today. Again, if you're interested in some premium memberships to improve your trading, there's links to Football Index Club, Football Index Edge, and to my Patreon page in the descriptions. Thanks for watching and good luck on the index.